Today is Friday the 17th, a little after 7 o'clock. Boy, Jupiter and Venus are exiting stage west. I spent a good deal of time trying to mechanically settle the base plate of the Gemini 2 Bosmandy mount. I probably screwed things up more than I fixed things, but I'll continue to play with it because it's just not orienting properly. One of the things I did get out of it, however, is I got the zenith position to be properly balanced. Now, in addition to that, I spent a good deal of time playing with the white balance parameter, which effectively destroys the color sense even when you put the REV II into color mode. I discovered that you have to push it all the way up to a level 55 out of 60 before you actually start getting color. And we're going to see the results here, even though I think the sky is perhaps a little bit too wet tonight. In addition, I dropped the flood value to 64 because I was planning to do some more open clusters and revisit some from the previous evening. However, I may belay on that. I just do want to show you a few things in color, and I may have to push the flood value back up for us to see them, especially fainter nebulosity like M1 and 1514 if it'll turn up that planetary nebula. So let me go ahead and set things up so you can see. To give you a better sense of the color and also the amount of atmospheric water vapor that's in the air, look at the red fringe around Betelgeuse. And look how far out it extends. That tells you an awful lot of water vapor is present. Also, notice the color. Now, I used a parameter to set this up that I wasn't aware of before. It must have been in some kind of position. But the value is called white balance. And I set it to a high value, 55. Now watch what happens if you drop the white balance value level down. You start losing the color. Look. Now the white is dominating the color spectrum. It's integrating all the colors together to make it white. If you push it, I'm going to set it at 55, which is right near the top. Now you really start to get the color. Now the other, wrong button. Now the other thing you have to set up is the day-night has to be in the day mode to get color, because if you set it at night, you'll go to black and white. See how? So there's two parameters that I have to play with. The white balance, pushing the value way up, and put it in the day mode if you want to get color. Notice the IR optimizer disappears when you go to day mode. Very intriguing, but it doesn't seem to affect the settings. I'm going to start off tonight though, because at 64 flood, and we're going to run it over to, first we're going to go to the flame. We're in 64 flood mode, which means we're basically getting what I would describe as a 10-inch aperture view of the flame. Not very intense. Look at that. The nebulosity, the dark obscuration nebulosity is still present. The flame shape is there, and we're getting decent color. But 64 flood and a 10-inch view isn't that impressive. Now, however, let's go take a look at M42 and 43 at the same 64 flood setting, and then we'll take a look at M1 as well. Here's our view of Messier 42, and in color. Check that out. Brilliant, isn't it? Now notice how diffuse the image is. And that's because of the water vapor in the atmosphere. But the color is extraordinary. I wish it was a little sharper. And I did play with focus a little bit. It didn't seem to help at all. So Messier 42 and 43 at 64 flood. And I don't think I'd want it any brighter than that anyways. It's starting to overwhelm. We're getting too much luminosity in the core of the nebulosity. Alright, so let's go take a look at Messier 1, the supernova remnant Taurus at 64 flood, and see what that looks like under these aqueous atmospheric conditions. Now, after synchronizing on M42's core where the trapezium is, I'm not seeing a single lick in this aqueous night sky of the Crab Nebula in Taurus. Now, it may be that the mount is not tracking very well, But it may also be that I have to turn up the flood value to be able to detect it. And it may also be that no matter what flood value I put in, the amount of contrast between the nebulosity and all the water vapor is just making it imperceptible. So I can go and once again synchronize on Betelgeuse. Aldabran's a little out of the picture right now. But I don't think that's the issue. I'm going to go ahead and run the flood value up and see if we get any views of M1. Now here's once again Betelgeuse after there's been some drift in the Mount Go2, which I would then synchronize out. And I went to M1. It's not too far off. I mean, it's probably 8 arc minutes out of the center of the screen. I'll center it again and go make another check at M1. And I didn't see it, so it should have turned up somewhere on the screen, even though I'm at 256 flood sensitivity. But look at that color. Wow. Okay, here we go. Now we've got, this is at 256 flood. I'm going to step down through them. This is the color version of the Crab Nebula, 256 flood in a highly aqueous atmosphere. Not centered. I'll probably synchronize to it, then I'm going to drop it down to 128 and then 64, and we're going to get a look at it. But yes, we do have color. Okay, so now I've pretty much synchronized up on the Crab Nebula. This is a 256 flood. Lots of water vapor in the atmosphere, getting a lot of diffusion. Low poor contrast, focus doesn't look very good, but the colors are quite present. What I'm going to do now is shift it down to 128 flood, which basically reduces sensitivity by, wrong button, Jeff. Reduces sensitivity of the CCD imager by about 0.7 magnitudes when you drop it in half. Let's see. 128 flood. But it also generates an image in half the time, typically about 6 1.5 second periods, which is 9 seconds total. So we went from about being 18-inch telescope to about a 13 or 14. Even though this is a 6-inch refractor, by changing the flood value, the exposure time. And drop it down again to 64. See what effect that has, which drops it down to about a 9 or 10-inch scope. You can see we're losing some of the image. And the velocity is disappearing. Takes a while. Despite the fact that I believe every roughly 4.5 seconds we're calculating, restacking the image. I go to 32 flood. See what effect it has on nebulosity. Which is more like about an 8-inch scope. Camera straight on it, wicked angle. And then finally, the equivalent of a 6-inch view. Oops, wrong direction. At 16 flood. And I have to work the camera pretty seriously to still continue seeing it. And it'll be a while, because it'll diminish over time like it was doing it before. Again, the highest contrast image is right above the dark bar. And I'll have to spend some time playing with settings on the monitor and perhaps the handheld camera in the future to see if I can improve the contrast across the screen. All right, there we have it. That's our Carpe Noctem moment, a little exploration, how to get color back into images of the night sky and the effects of atmospheric water on diffusing images and losing focus and losing contrast.